everybody, I'm here with a quick video about Ostara, the spring equinox, Eoster, however you want to pronounce it. So we have on March 20th, 2025 this year, the spring equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere. Of course, that is the autumn equinox in the Southern Hemisphere. I am going to gear this more towards the Northern Hemisphere. This is where I live. But I wanted to acknowledge that yes, in the Southern Hemisphere, it is the autumn equinox. So it's going to have, a different tone, obviously, going into fall than it is going into the season of spring. So here in the Northern Hemisphere, we have spring equinox coming up. Equinox means equal, so it's equal amounts of light and dark, but we're going to be moving after the equinox where there's going to be more hours of light than there is of darkness. So we are going into that light half of the year. This is also marked by the sun moving into the sign of Aries. So that's what the spring equinox is when the sun moves into the sign of Aries here in the Northern Hemisphere. And so it is the start of the wheel of the zodiac, because the wheel of the zodiac starts with Aries, ends with Pisces. So some astrologers see this as the astrological new year, and some people will even take the moment of the equinox at their location to be indicative. They'll look at the chart of what is coming up for the year in their area. So you might want to look up exactly when spring equinox is going to be in your area, in your time zone, and then look at if you have a program where you can put in the time for a chart. Or if you have an app that can show you, I have one called Time Passages that shows you the astrology of what's in the sky right now. Maybe make a note at the time and then take a look and see what the chart looks like if you're somebody that's into astrology, and that can tell you something about the year ahead collectively for your area. So a lot of astrologers, will see this as the new year, the astrological new year. I think, whether you see it as a kind of new year or not, the spring equinox tends to be a time where we feel more energetic, we feel more uplifted. I mean, there's more light around, things are warming up. Depending where you live, you might be starting to see flowers, maybe some birds are returning. And so it is often a time that has a lot of hope attached to it, the promise of new beginnings and new starts. There's a sense of like the energy just being uplifted. Now, we do have the sun, of course, moving into the sign of Aries, and the sun tends to be what we focus on. It tends to be where our energy goes. And so collectively, when the sun moves into Aries, Aries is a cardinal fire sign. So fire signs tend to be very energetic, very creative, very bold. They tend to be leaders. And so you have this sort of like bold energy. It's also a cardinal sign, and cardinal signs are ones that like to start things. They like to initiate things. And so you have Aries, which is cardinal and fire, and it's all about starting new projects, putting energy into something. Aries energy is very good for starting things. It's not always great for like really long-term projects because it tends to peter out a bit after a while. Think of it as like a flame, like a match that lights up, like it's, got lots of flame, and then it dies very quickly, right? And so that Aries energy is great for a spark that starts something, a spark of inspiration, a spark of energy towards a new project. And so that this time of year tends to hold that kind of energy of like, the spark and the promise and new beginnings and creative ideas. Aries is also a very pioneering sign. It's a sign that likes to try new things, to do new things. And so we often have this energy of like, oh, I can do things. We feel this uplifted sort of energy that comes along. And that's really reflected in the outside world, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, because we have, depending where you are in the world, you might be seeing the grass starting to come up, the birds returning. There's a sense of like new life and new energy and fertility and, the possibilities of the future. It has this sort of very hopeful energy to it. So for me, with the spring equinox, some people connect it with Ostara or Eoster, which is a Germanic spring goddess. Often this time of year is connected with maiden goddesses and that maiden kind of energy. But I connect it because it is when the sun goes into the sign of Aries. Aries is ruled by the planet Mars. Each sign in the zodiac is ruled by a planet. And for Aries, it's ruled by the planet Mars. In fact, the Greek equivalent to Mars, because Greek and Roman mythology are connected to each other, the Greek god of war was named Ares. And then when the Romans I don't know what the word is, but they sort of adopted or took on Greek mythology, but gave it their own twist and their own names. The Greek equivalent is Mars, right? So it's interesting, Aries, Mars, they're almost, the same god in some ways. But if the sign of Aries is ruled by the planet Mars, the god of war, the god of courage. When we look at Mars in a birth chart in astrology, where Mars is in our chart is what we fight for. It is how we use our energy. It's also how we get angry. Mars is also anger. Mars can have, on the negative side, connotations of violence or difficulty or challenges. On the bright side, though, it's our energy, it's our will, it's our sex drive. It's like all of these kind of like, all of the things that give us that drive and that force. It also can be seen as sort of like a more masculine sign, obviously. And so it shows us where that kind of our masculine energy, however you define that, is flowing. So I connect this time of year with the god Mars. So often this is a time of year where, especially when we're in Aries season, working with the god Mars, working with things like courage, working with things like my habits, working on things like, exercise routines, anything that has to do with kind of that Martian type energy. I did pick up a deck that I thought would be great for working with Mars, at least for me in my practice, and that is the Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. I mean, obviously it's about heroes. It has there's both male and female mythic or legendary figures in this particular deck. But I found that this, the idea of heroes, I thought was very interesting. And I have an unboxing video of this coming up, which I'll put up on the channel in a couple of days. But it's very much about sort of that being a hero in your own life, how you can take these stories, these mythical stories, and apply them to your life and to your situation. So I'm going to be working with that, while I work with Mars over the next month or so. So that's a deck I've been working with there for that one. For me, for the spring equinox, this is really a time where, I honor the god Mars during this time, and putting courage into things. Where do I need to put my courage? Where do I want to take risks this year? I also, for me, in my personal practice, connect Mars very much with the music that I do, especially because the music that I tend to listen to and to play is, hard rock, which sort of has that kind of like Martian masculine type energy for me. So I often connect it with that. But also, I think that, we all know the words of the world is a little bit crazy right now. Where, I know there have people watch me from all over the place, and in particular, I have a lot of people in the United States. I'm not going to tell you what your politics should be, obviously, but I think most people, if you watch me, I'm not a fan of Trump, and I'm especially not a fan of what's going on. I feel very worried for people in the United States right now. I think that I could do a whole video just talking about what I think about what's going on, but it is very crazy, and I'm very scared for people. I'm scared for women. I'm scared for minorities. Even like if you are not a billionaire, basically, I'm really worried about what is happening down there. It's very, very scary. And then, of course, there's the whole like threatening to annex Canada. Let me tell you, I don't know what your media is saying, but I don't know, like Canadians don't want to be part of the United States. Like, no offense, you're neighbors and we love you. We love you, but we don't want to be you. It's kind of like if your next door neighbor was like, I'm going to take over your house. You're like, no, you're not. So no, we don't want to be Americans. Um, and we know that a lot of Americans also don't agree with it. So if you're an American, please know we love you. We know it's not you. We know it's not you. We know it's the people in office right now. So I just want to put that out there. But what I'm trying to say is this time is calling us to have courage. It's calling us to have courage, to stand up for what we believe in, stand up for what's right, calling us to be courageous at this time. And I think I might do a whole video about how Neptune, at the end of this month, is moving into the sign of Aries. And so Neptune is a planet that is about our dreams. It's about the collective dream, our collective ideals. And it's going from Pisces into Aries, which is a more a sign that is, more warlike, but it's also one that calls us to be heroes and to take risks and, to stand up. And so I think we're being collectively called to that. I think there's lots of stuff going on in the world. There's not just, what's going on here, but I think we're being called to that. And so I think it's really apt for me anyway, working with God Mars around this time. So this time of year as well, we just had St. Patrick's Day, which is another spring celebration, celebrating, for most people, celebrating Irish heritage, or even if you're not Irish, you can be honorary Irish for a day, right? But for me, it has connections with, leprechauns and the fair folk. And, I do have a little Irish heritage on my mother's side. My mother is British, so we do have some Irish heritage there. But for me, I took out the Brian Froud Fairies Oracle and pulled a card to put on my altar just to kind of honor the wee folk and, how I feel like the earth is starting to wake up. Now, where I live, there's still snow on the ground. It is melting though. But March here in the prairies of Canada can be brutally cold. We can get a storm, or it can be melting. And it can change from day to day, but we know that it's not going to last forever. We know spring's around the corner. So I got out my Brian Froud Fairies Oracle, there's the back there, and pulled some cards. I love this deck. I've had this deck for years and years. I think I've had this deck for like 20 years, maybe. I know I got it in like the very early 2000s, I think. I might have still even been in university. I adore this deck. I know some people don't always get along with this deck, but I love it. I adore it. And for me, it's just a reminder that, hey, like spring's on the way. The spring fairies are starting to wake up. So I pulled out this deck and pulled a card from my altar for that, surrounding the fairies. And then, of course, the other spring celebration that we have coming up is Easter. Now, Easter, I'm not Christian, but put that away there. I was, raised Catholic, and I know I'll go to my family's for Easter and stuff. It's part of my cultural heritage. And so for me, Easter, it's connected obviously with themes of sacrifice and resurrection, which are very springtime type themes. And so we have Jesus, obviously in Christian, theology, is he's hung on the cross, he dies, and then he's reborn again. And so this idea of sacrifice and sacrificing yourself in order to save others, right? This idea of redemption and resurrection and all these things. And so for me, I connect Easter, and Easter can vary on the dates. It's a little bit complicated, but the way that it works is it is always the Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. So you will always have it. You will never have it in Pisces season. It will almost always be in Aries season, although some years it might be in Taurus season. But it depends, how close the full moon is, from the full moon from the spring equinox. But that's how Easter is calculated. That's why it can be at the end of March, or it can be all the way. I think the latest is April 24th or something like that. Anyway, that's why it moves around. But for me, Easter being another spring celebration, I connect it actually with the god Neptune. Now, Neptune in modern astrology rules Pisces, and obviously we're out of Pisces season. But when I think about Easter and I think about, some of the themes in that, Neptune is connected in the tarot with the Hanged Man. and with sacrifice and with spiritual ideals, connected with those with meditation, with spirituality, all of those kind of things. And if you think about the hangman is kind of connected with both Odin hanging on the world tree, but also has had connections with, Jesus on the cross, right? And this idea of sacrifice, this idea of sacrificing yourself for something bigger. And so for me, Easter becomes a time when to honor Neptune and to honor my spirituality. It's often a time too where I think about what kind of spiritual things I might want to, practices I might want to have for the next year, things I might want to learn about, that kind of thing, for me anyway, for Easter. So I connect all of these things. I try to incorporate some of the things I grew up with my own tradition. And then there's also, this idea of Lent. So Lent starts with Ash Wednesday, which we've already passed. And it's the 40 days leading up to Easter. And so when I was in Catholic school, they often talked about giving something up for Lent. And it was a really great way to break a bad habit. And in fact, I used to bite my nails as a kid. And one Lent, I decided to give up biting my nails. And it worked. I never bit my nails again. So this Lent, I decided to give up going to Starbucks for a coffee because while delicious, it's a little bit of a drain on the bank account for sure. And then also because of all the things that are going on, I'm trying to avoid American companies. Again, no offense to Americans, but especially big American companies. Right now there's this big push to buy Canadian. Although I have to say, if you're a small American business, like if you have an Etsy shop or you provide services, I'm happy to support those kind of people. Very happy to support you. Especially people in the witchy and creative communities, I'm all about supporting them. So, but the big companies like Walmart and things like that, and even Amazon, I'm I don't want to order things on Amazon. I'm trying not to support the billionaires right now. So we'll see how that goes. And no shade to anybody who, if you find something cheap on Amazon, that's all you can afford, no shade to you, right? You do what you got to do, for sure. But trying to keep it to buying Canadian as much as I can. But anyway, I digress. Yes, so that's why I decided to give up for Lent this year. But I find it a really good way to just focus on maybe eliminating a bad habit, or focus on, maybe giving something up that maybe is an indulgence or something like that. I think it's a good spiritual exercise. So anyway, those are the things I'm doing for my spring celebrations this year. Let me know what you're doing for Easter. And oh, by the way, if you join, I have a free level on my Patreon. I'm going to be putting up a spell for the spring equinox, because it's right the spring equinox now. You don't have to do it right on this day, but can really be done anytime, I think, during Aries season over the next month or so. And it's a spell calling for courage. It's a spell to call for the energy of courage. I think especially with these difficult times that a lot of us, are living in and going through, a spell calling on us for courage during these times. So that is going to be on the free level of my Patreon. If you're signing up on my Patreon, for any of the levels, please do not sign up on an Apple phone. Don't sign up on an iPhone. Don't use an app like the Apple app to sign up, the Patreon app, because they are charging 30%. They're taking 30% now, which means that the price is going to be higher if you're going for a paid level. So I don't want you to be charged more stuff. If you want to sign up for a paid level on my Patreon, please go to go to the website, go on your laptop, on your desktop, that kind of thing. I'm not sure. I don't think it does that on the Android, but anyway, check it out. But there's I'm going to put it up for free, the spell, so you can check that out there. Right now, just on my Patreon, we are finishing up working with the Artist's Way this month, as well as going through the Aleister Crowley Tarot. And then for April, we're going to be working with Mars. We're going to be working with Mars on the coven level, bringing in our own heroic energy, working on our inner hero this coming month. And then also, I'm going to be teaching beginner tarot, step-by-step beginner tarot. You don't have to know a thing about tarot. I hope you join me for that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I want to get people reading like very quickly. So the plan is to go through the major arcana and then teach you how to read with majors only. And then we're going to go through the, and this is over several months. This is not just all in one month, but I'm going to start doing that in April. Probably go with beginner tarot, bite-sized videos to get you started, to get you learning. We'll be doing that throughout the rest of 2025. So if you want to join me for that, you can check that out. And of course, I've also got readings on my Etsy shop. My Etsy shop prices are in Canadian. So if you are American, you can get a bang for your buck right now. So check that out. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful, amazing spring equinox or autumn equinox if you're down south. But I wish you all so much love. It's crazy out there. And I just want everyone to be safe and happy and well. And I mean, I think that's what we all want, right? So anyway, as always, peace, and love, and rock and roll.